Hello everyone, good morning. Welcome to AppVentory's latest webinar. This is From Ledger to Leader, Be the Tech Hero Your Firm Needs. My name is Bethany and I am a digital transformation consultant as well as the product evangelist for AppVentory. I've been in the tech industry for about 10 years now. I've worked at tech vendors. I was with Xero for 6 years and Unleashed for 2. And I've also been a digital transformation consultant, both at a top 25 firm, in a company of 2 people, and currently freelance. So I'm coming at this webinar from the perspective of both working at a SaaS vendor with AppVentory, but also as a tech advisor myself. And in this webinar, we are going to explore why your firm needs a tech leader, how to scope your business's needs and find the right apps for your firm, how to manage the implementation and change throughout those projects as well. So once we've laid down these foundations of internal tech transformation, we'll look at some key considerations to turn your newfound experience into a revenue generating service for your clients. So first, let's look at some insights that evidence why your firm might need a tech hero. So on screen now is the outcome of a study of 1,500 product sellers in the UK, which took place in January of 2024. And if you look at the graph, you can see that essentially better tech equals better business performance. It's very clear to see. But it also shows that the majority of the businesses studied and surveyed actually have poor or less than great technology, indicating that there is a lot of space for tech heroes to take a step up and improve the state of business tech and business performance across the UK. And talking about the UK, we spend over £100 billion per year on business technology. And wouldn't it be a much better return on investment if that technology was actually of great quality and fit what the businesses needed and enable those businesses to actually scale and have that better business performance? In a series of further surveys over the last few years, it also became apparent that there lies a large and somewhat worrisome gap, and that is the gap between knowing something needs to change and doing what needs to be done. So, of those surveyed, 90% agreed that technology is critically important to the business's performance. 30% have an agreed upon tech roadmap or strategy for their business. And 15%, less than a sixth, will complete the implementation of their top 2 tech priorities this year. So those 15% are people that believe they will complete the implementation of their top 2 tech priorities. The actuality is that much less will actually complete the implementation. Okay, so there's lots of room for improvement, and it's clear from these numbers that there is a lot of reasons why firms and businesses in general really need tech heroes to step in, take accountability, and drive that change. So these are some of the common red flags you might recognize from your own firm's systems and processes in this pretty poorly formatted square on screen. But essentially, these are flags that would indicate that there is an opportunity for tech transformation. So first up, we've got manual processes, and these are those that rely on paper, spreadsheets, but also verbal communication and even whiteboards and sticky notes, basically anything without automation. And without automation, you're risking human error, slower operations, and you're just imposing a limitation on scalability and potential efficiency gains. You may also find through reviewing your existing tech that you've got overlapping functionality across multiple systems. For example, you might have several systems in place that give you the option to create and send proposals to clients. You might have received critical feedback from staff, from colleagues, clients, maybe even suppliers about your systems and your processes and procedures. And in fact, from my own experience working in a firm, I can almost guarantee that at least once a week you're hearing someone have a little bit of a moan about a system that you have in place. Um, do you have data held in various locations? So, a good example I like to use is document management. So, do you have staff storing documents in email folders? Do you have some staff storing documents in your OneDrive or your Google Drive? Do we have a document management system that some staff are using? And maybe you might even find that some of your staff are actually using your e-signing system, so the systems like DocuSign, to actually store documents in as well. And I know it is a little bit of a buzzword, but by having one system in place to actually hold all of your documents, you're going to have that single source of truth. Okay. And without having that, it's difficult for you to find information and the correct versions of that information and to obviously collaborate on these documents and systems as well. Similar to having desktop systems, which should be a thing of the past by now, is single user access systems. You don't need me to tell you that a really good piece of technology should allow collaboration and with that multiple users to access that data at the same time. And it might just be that you have identified that there isn't just a need to improve efficiency across the business and save some time. Now, it is my own very strong belief that every single business can relate to at least one of these items. And if yours does too, then that's more reason to make a change. So once you've identified some of these red flags or problems that your business or your firm is experiencing, you first need to complete some discovery activities to help you decide which areas, which problems to focus on first. And that will help you define what your initial project scope is and ensure that you're not getting scope creep or you're getting sidetracked onto other side quests throughout that project. And before being able to implement new systems and new processes and change, there are three areas that you need to consider as part of that discovery. So the first is what your requirements are. So I've already mentioned identifying complaints, but you also want to think about what bottlenecks there are within your current processes and just where there is opportunity to automate operations. And the way that you can do this is by process mapping. So by mapping out your internal processes, you'll be able to see down to an activity level where there is the most opportunity for improvement. And those opportunities turn into what we call functional requirements, so a feature that you would need out of a new system. You want to understand future company goals. So are there plans for growth, acquisition, or new service lines? And this will give you a bit of a clear view on how any new systems that you want to introduce need to scale with the business. And then you want to think about your business's minimum security requirements for new systems. So, does your firm state that any systems need to have GDPR compliance, two-factor authentication, or single sign-on? Next is the impact, understanding the potential impact of change on staff, clients, and suppliers. So, one way you could do this is send staff surveys to understand how staff are using current systems, as well as what the impact of those current outdated processes are, and then what the ongoing risk or impact of inaction might actually be. With those process maps, if you're looking at the responsibilities in that process map in combination with survey responses, then you can easily identify who would be impacted by what changes. And knowing that at the end of your discovery phase will help you determine what change has the most or least impact. And it's not that most or least is better than the other. It's just understanding what that impact will be, who will be impacted, and how they're going to potentially be impacted by that change. And that will provide you with the knowledge you need to manage that change and ensure that those that are going to be impacted are communicated with effectively to ensure that they have a positive engagement with that upcoming transformation. And then finally, priorities. What are the priorities for the business? So, are there any immediate needs that need to be addressed, such as a software contract that's ending in 6 months' time? Or maybe you just really need to prioritize a new practice management system because the one you have is causing a really big time loss and the lack of visibility is becoming worryingly costly and risky. This will help you determine what your kind of timelines are that you're working to, as well as your deadline. And having a timeline, a deadline, understanding the impact and the requirements will ensure that your project objectives are really clear, and that you have kind of clear milestones to track yourself against to ensure that everything stays on track and momentum keeps moving. All right, so on screen now is a really basic process map, but I spoke about it already and I wanted to show you what kind of data to be tracking or entering or documenting within your process map. So this one on screen, I actually did in Miro. Which is a nice, easy to use process mapping tool. But essentially, getting a couple of people in a room that are associated with this process. So in this case, you'll see this is a proposal process. So I would want someone that creates proposals, someone that approves proposals, as that's the process we're covering here, and someone who teaches this process to new starters to be in a room with me whilst I'm documenting this. And the reason I want these different kind of staff levels in a room is because often, especially in an accounting firm, when you join as a new starter, you are trained on HR policies. You've got a learning management system for your anti-money laundering, but there's really no formal training for processes like this, these more operational processes. And the training is usually verbal. And so that means a little bit like Chinese whispers, everyone starts to adapt a slightly different approach to the process. So getting multiple people in the room to document it helps you get a really good understanding of all the nuances of a process, different ways that people are doing it, but also getting everyone to agree what the current baseline actually is. So when you are mapping out a process, you'll want to record all the activities that take place, which is all these kind of boxes on screen here. Who is responsible? So in this particular one, this is a little bit like a swim lane diagram. This is the partner's responsibility, and anything in this row is the relationship manager's responsibility. Okay, so documenting the activities and who is responsible. And then once I've done that, I can record opportunities or risks, issues, and convert those into requirements. Okay, so this is a proposal process here. Really top level, the client wants a proposal. We create a proposal in Word by creating a copy of the last proposal I created for a client. So I use that as my template. Then I email it to the partner to review. The partner looks at it, and once they are happy with it, they'll send an email back to the relationship manager to say all is okay. The relationship manager then converts that Word doc into a PDF and sends it to the client via email. So when I'm looking at this process and analyzing what could be better about it, the first, I guess, red flag or red triangle I came up against is a data risk here. So in this client's particular case, they're creating a proposal in Word by copying a previously created proposal. And there's a data risk here. Okay, so the risk is that one day someone might edit the original proposal by accident. So now we have no single source of truth, and that client's data and what we previously proposed that client no longer exists. Okay. It also just means that there could be slight changes from proposal to proposal. If we're just copying and pasting it and editing it, there's not a kind of enforced template really that we're working to. Another consideration here is an automation opportunity. So as you can see, this whole approval process is manual, it's emails and it's waiting. There is a risk that we'll forget to approve a proposal and it might just get left behind. And so an automation opportunity here could be to implement automated approvals or approval reminders. So once a proposal is created, it's automatically sent for approval. And then perhaps if an approval isn't received back in 3 days, whatever system we're implementing sends a reminder to the approver to review the proposal. So that's when you start with your baseline, your current process, pick out where there's issues or opportunities to do better, and then turn those opportunities into requirements. And once you've got a list of those requirements, you can make a decision on the breadth of the scope of this project and what you want to attack first and who is accountable, and then what deadlines you want to be working to, what's realistic and also meets the kind of business's requirements in terms of deadlines. All right, so just to clarify, this is how you find your functional requirements, which again are the features that you want a new system to have to meet the business's needs. So you're looking at your existing processes and documenting all the activities that a new system needs to have, but also we want to look at things that the system can do better than your current process. So on the left-hand side are the issues and the risks. So this is essentially those red triangles and ovals converted into text. So on the left-hand side, an issue that we have is that internal approvals is manual and things get lost. And also we have that copying and pasting prior proposals risks data loss and inconsistency in appearance. So the way that we get our functional requirements from this is look at what the issue is and what the risk is and think about what the opportunity is to do better. So if an issue is that approvals is manual, the opportunity is automated rule-based approvals that are automatically triggered. That's a feature that our new system should have. If our issue is that copying and pasting old proposals risks data loss and inconsistency in appearance, then the opportunity is to implement proposal templates so that every time we create a proposal, the template is already there for you and you just need to fill in the gaps. Okay, and that's how you start to build out a list of features you want a new system to have. Right, so you have a solid understanding of what your businesses need. You will have defined the scope of the project by now. So what the biggest cause for concerns are, what process you are focusing on transforming, what improvements and functionality you're seeking. You'll know your timeline that you're working to, your kind of deadline, who the project will impact and how it will impact them. And then the next step is to choose your new systems. And finding the right tech is not just about functionality. And I know that is the majority of what we've covered here, but there are other things that you'll want to ask any software vendors that you approach. Ask them about their product roadmap and if they have a publicly available one. Ideally for 6 to 12 months ahead, so you can see that there is investment going into the product. You might want to ask them if there are any plans for the product to be acquired or sold anytime soon as well. And this just ensures that it is going to be scalable, it is going to exist with the business for as long as you need it to. You want to ask any security questions. So I mentioned earlier, you might have some minimum requirements around security compliance policies or access through two-factor authentication or single sign-on. Make sure that those queries are covered. Integrations. So any new piece of tech that you implement will serve a purpose, but does it need to integrate with other systems? Does it need to share data or pull data from or to other places? So make sure you're asking all the right questions around that. And then your onboarding and your training. Look, a lot of systems that you implement you can self-implement. You can they might be very intuitive and easy for you to learn. But if the system that you are introducing to the business is going to impact a lot of people, or perhaps people across different departments, or perhaps it's going to impact clients as well as staff, then it's wise to consider what training each of those kind of groups will need, because they will be using the system for a different reason. And you'll need to make that really clear as part of your change management plan. Of course, you can create your own training if you feel that you're comfortable with the product, but a lot of tech vendors will provide a level of onboarding and training, either free of charge or at a really good price. And of course, they are the experts in the product, so are best placed to deliver that support, and will have all of the content and materials to make that happen. And then finally is your pricing. Of course, you'll want to understand what the cost is of the product, whether it is a subscription, whether you are tied into, a year when you sign up. But it's also wise to ask about previous price hikes. Does this software tech vendor um, implement an annual fee increase, for example? And is there a set percentage that they tend to do that by, just to ensure that you're not going to get any nasty surprises and that this is a piece of tech that is, affordable. So once you've found your technology, you'll then need to think about implementing that technology and planning that implementation. So a few things to consider is your go live date. So that is the date that you essentially switch the system on and everyone is using it. So there will be a period of time that you're setting it up, testing it, but what is the date that everyone goes live for? And you'll want to align your training, your communications, your kind of operational support around that date. When you're working to a particular date, make sure that you've considered any risks and potential blockers that might delay that. So that could be staff, project managers that may be ill or on annual leave, or if there are any problems with your system or your data that might delay the project. So ensure that you allow a little bit of time for things like that to happen. For an implementation project, it's wise to get support in that. So assigning project managers for the implementation project itself, but also change managers that help manage the change. Your change managers are going to communicate with all of those impacted and be kind of a source of support for them. Consider when you're planning the implementation timeline, the data that you need to get out of existing systems and the cleansing and reformatting that that data requires to implement in a new piece of tech. Think about the fact that your basic setup and customization needs to take place before the go live date. So there needs to be a period of setup, a period of testing, a period of tweaking, and then go live. Now, even once you've gone live, there will be more tweaking to be done as time goes on. And so just to avoid any big issues, what many firms and businesses will do once they've implemented a new system is run it in tandem with their old system for a week to a month, dependent on what type of system it is and the data that you've got in there, just to ensure that everything is working fine, and that any work being done in the old system can be closed off before starting new work on the new system. Next is your change management plan. So when you are building a change management plan, you'll need to assign your change manager, and that will be your champion of change. And they will ensure that the change management plan is actually executed, and they will act as a person of trust for your staff to share their concerns with and their feedback with. And I've alluded to this already, but you should have slightly different change management and feedback strategies and communications based on the needs and the impacts on those different groups. So your different departments, your clients, your suppliers, and for each group, you'll need to clearly communicate the objectives of the project and the benefits that the change will bring to them. Um, so to ensure that success, we've spoken about identifying potential risks, so technical failures, resistance to change, and potential productivity dips, which will happen over at least the first few days. And just by identifying those potential risks, you can start to develop contingency plans for those scenarios. If you have a proactive approach like this, then it just means that any disruption you do experience will be as minimized as possible. And it will just help you build a bit more confidence across those affected, that you know what you're doing and we're en route to a better way of working. And I've already mentioned that there will be a level of ongoing optimization. So once you've gone live, your change management does not end on your go live date. It's important to check in with those impacted at maybe a week, maybe 3 months, maybe 6 months after the implementation to understand how they're using the system, what their feedback is, and if the product itself needs to be optimized or tweaked in any way to continue working better for everyone. All right, so you now know how to manage a digital transformation project, and we've very much focused on internal tech transformation for your firm. But essentially, you can apply those same principles to your clients and client projects. So why should you do that? Well, there's several reasons why many firms are looking to provide tech advisory. The first, of course, is that it is a new service line. It's going to bring more revenue into the business, but also diversify the offering that you have, the service offering, the product offering. It's future-proofing your firm. With the introduction of AI and other automation, everyone knows advisory is the future. Okay, so providing these types of services just means that you are already one step ahead of the curve, and that you may feel that at this point maybe you're behind the curve because there are firms that are already providing this service line. But I have been in this industry for 10 years and I can tell you it is 5% of firms that are proactively providing tech advisory services. So if you want to differentiate, now is the time. You are still very much in the early adopters arena if you'd start to provide tech advisory now. Now, if you're providing this service to existing clients of your firm, it makes them stickier. The more services, the more products that you are providing to your clients, the more wedded they are to you, and the more, I guess, reliant they are on your services, and they are at a much less likely to essentially leave your firm. And then finally, providing tech advisory or digital transformation, however you want to call it, as a service line, and something that you actively market on your websites, within your proposals, within your first meetings of clients, will essentially help you win more clients if you can differentiate yourself from the other firms that they are getting tenders or proposals from. Then it might just be the thing that shows them and demonstrates to them that you are very proactive, that you're providing more strategic services to businesses, and are more advanced, I guess, in that product offering. So a few things to think about when looking to provide this tech advisory service line is first the expertise that you have access to. So who within your firm is going to be provided this? Are you the tech hero that is going to be providing this service line? And what is your expertise? Do you have a particular product or several products that you are really comfortable with, confident in advising on and implementing and supporting? Maybe you have someone in-house that just product development on as a side gig. So they can do custom development as part of tech transformation projects for clients. Or maybe you just have staff members that are really great with people, really curious, likes to ask lots of questions and get to the weeds of a problem. Think about the expertise that you have, and that will help you determine how to package your service offering and what to really focus on as your kind of value driver. Now, something that I talk to a lot of firms about is just dipping your toes into the world of tech advisory before going through these full end-to-end implementation advisory projects like we've just spoken about. So I'm not here to talk about or show you AppVentory, but one thing that it does provide practices for their clients is data on tech spend and tech usage. So just having even information like that at your fingertips can help you start to provide finance tech advice. Okay, so if your expertise up until this point has been finance, has been accounting, has been FG services, then it's a really great way to dip your toes into tech advisory just by providing a one pager to your client quarterly, annually, whatever it might be, when you meet them on what tech that they actually have in their business, how much they're spending on it, and where there's opportunities to save money if they do have duplicate types of applications or apps that they're paying for that they're not really using. So coming at it from a finance perspective can be a really kind of familiar way for accountants to start talking about tech with clients before delving into the world of analyzing apps, finding new apps, implementing apps, training on apps. So think about, basically how deep do you want to get into the tech advisory landscape at this stage? Finally, how are you pricing your service offering? Are you kind of commoditizing your services into packages? A light package, an advanced package? Is that an offering that you're going to provide for free for your clients? Is that something that you are going to offer to all new clients? Is it going to be a very proactive service that you're selling, or kind of ad hoc as the need arises? Now, there are different ways to, I guess, generate revenue for a tech advisory service line. So the first is your projects. So that's very similar to what we've spoken about today, where you're analyzing existing processes, you're translating that into requirements, you're researching systems and implementing and training. And these can come with, 20,000 fees, dependent on the scope of the project. They're generally one-off. You can have residuals relating to kind of ongoing change management and optimization of what has been implemented, but generally will be one-off projects that bring in a chunk of revenue. But think about where you can have a recurring fee relating to tech advisory. So perhaps you can introduce a monthly support fee for anything that you're implementing for a client. Let's say it's something really simple like Zero. You want to charge £20 a month, add that onto your fee for your clients. So you're starting to bring in these kind of recurring fees as a kind of, I guess, a backup. You've got your fees for your implementation, but then there's also potential fees around when you are paying for subscriptions on behalf of clients. A lot of times the software vendor will give a discount or a commission. So think about whether you want to retain any of that as a revenue or pass that on to your clients. And that wasn't finally, there's one more on my screen. It is insights and segmentation. So you know how to manage a full end-to-end digital transformation project at this stage. You've got a understanding of what services you want to provide, how you're packaging them up, and what your expertise is. So once you know all of that, you need to find your clients, you need to find your projects. Of course, you can just wait for them to come in and manage them as and when they come in. But the fact of the matter is that that isn't going to be very fruitful if people don't understand what you do and you're not at that stage of having lots of case studies just yet. So a great way to start is by getting insights into your existing client base across the firm and segmenting your clients by industry, by business size, by apps that they do or don't use. So what comes in really handy here is having a really great practice management system with up-to-date data. Now, I know from my time working in firm and from all of the firms that I have spoken to over the years that a really great practice management system with that data and with that data being up to date is very rare to come across. But if you do have access to it, let's say that you've identified that your expertise is in retail shops and you want to go and implement point of sale systems on all of the clients that don't have it, then ideally you want to segment your client base by retail industry and perhaps by those with one store, and perhaps by those with under 20 staff so that you know the types of apps that you can recommend to those types of clients, and you can go and send a campaign to them or reach out to them about this service. If you don't have access to that kind of data, again, this isn't a sell AppVentory webinar, but there are apps such as AppVentory that will provide you that data. Where you can connect up your clients' accounting systems and their kind of single sign-on to pull through what industry that business is in, how many staff they have, what apps they are subscribed to, what apps they're logging into, to give you some really good insights as to where the opportunities are. You know, what apps should they be using that you can see they aren't using? Or what apps can you see that they signed up for but they aren't using that you can then use as a topic of conversation around tech advisory? So I'd love to get into that side of things a little bit more in terms of how to um, formalize your service line and how to find those projects. But we are limited on time today, so perhaps I will cover that in another webinar. But as for today, thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much for watching if you're watching the recording. That is all from me. As I said, I'm also a freelance digital transformation consultant, so I do tech advisory as well as my work with AppVentory. So if there is anything I can help with, if you have any questions, if you're just dipping your toes into the world of tech advisory and want a little bit of advice or want to hear how it went for me, then please don't hesitate to reach out. As I said, my name is Bethanie Hawkins. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn or via email, from which this webinar will come. Again, thank you so much for your time today. I hope you found this useful. Please feel free to share any feedback and have a really good day. Thank you very much. Goodbye.